Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the microphone, standing at 6 feet tall, weighing in at 100 pounds, he is the High Ranger, the mess from the West, Keen Mandles! Hey everyone, I'm just here today because I have fallen in love with a new wrestling show, AEW Dynamite. Now, I am a long-time professional wrestling fan. I grew up on the Attitude Era, and then honestly, the big time company, they lost me. They moved to the PG era, and I felt that it just wasn't for me anymore. Their product got really stale really quickly, and so I sort of just completely tuned out to it. A whole bunch of new people came in. I tried to tune in a few years ago, and it was just all completely different. I didn't recognize anyone, and yeah, really left a hole in me because, well, I absolutely love this stuff. I'm very passionate about it. And a couple of years ago, I was lucky enough to stumble upon finding out that Cody and Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks decided to start their own, get a pay-per-view going at the challenge of Dave Metzler. And I made sure I caught that event because I knew they'd get that 10,000 attendance in no time at all. And let me tell you, my mind was blown. The amount of things I saw on that night that I've never seen before was just incredible. It lit a fire underneath me. And ever since then, I've just caught every episode that I can. And I've made sure I watched every pay-per-view. And I'm going to start by doing the 22nd of August episode. The one that was on Saturday night after the basketball. Huge time slot for them. Obviously, they tried to pull off some massive stuff for it, really proud of them for getting it done. And shout outs to the Khan boys for giving him the opportunity. It's absolutely fantastic to see. So, the first thing I want to say is doing it in an open air stadium, my God, there is just a certain energy about open air sporting events that you just cannot replicate. Like an open roof, them boys are suffering from the weather, the wind, everything. It makes it just such a spectacle all the time, and to have that as your weekly arena is such a big tick in their favor. I think you see the boys break into a sweat almost straight away. It's great. There's so many room to go through and just have matches wherever they want. Like with the Stadium Stampede match is a great example. The Mimosa Mayhem match coming up in All Out with Orange Cassidy and Y2J. That's awesome. They have the space and the ability to do that. And yeah, the open air feel is just so great. And I mean, they do throwback things too that I absolutely love. Every match has a 20-minute time limit on it. That brings it back to the days of the early days, before Hogan and all that. When Tully Blanchard was actually wrestling and stuff like that, it fits a really good vibe, and it gives it a bit of a nostalgic feel all the time. It's absolutely wonderful. And then, they got the really simple thing that TNA used to do with the face intro, face walkway, and the heel walkway. To me, that's such a big thing, and it can really change the aspect of, a whole match, actually figuring out who comes from which side. Because I know the big leagues, they only have one entrance, they might have two sides of the curtain, but it doesn't matter. They all come out of the same place in the end, and, it this adds to the feel of the match. That's going to happen, and it sets it up. You know who the good guy is, you know who the bad guy is, and you choose who you're rooting for really early on. It's just really fantastic, And I mean, I just get this great sense that these guys are all having fun doing what they absolutely love, I think that's why I appreciate it so much. My passion for it is so deeply connected to me growing up and everything like that. You can see these guys have obviously all lived the life of it and grinded their way to get to the top, and they never made it to the big leagues. But I tell you what, Cody, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega getting that deal and putting on that pay-per-view, shutting Dave Metzler up and just getting it done, and then getting a TV deal for a weekly show. It just feels like these guys are just a good, tight-knit group of friends who are just trying to put on the best that they can for people like them who just want to watch the show and just enjoy it, It's so invigorating to see. It's not just a money-making machine. It's these guys going out and trying to show the world, this is what we're all about. This is how we can do this stuff, And it's so great that it just feels like, they're giving their friends the opportunities, giving them the chance to be in the spotlight, be on national TV. It's absolutely fantastic. And I know they're waging a war right now against the developmental program for the big leagues, and I think they're going to win that every time. The talent is so strong. it's just something else. Like I'm so proud of them to come in and do that, and they're just giving people a chance, you know. Like guys like Eddie Kingston, Eva Lise, Diamante, those two girls, man, they've been around for ages in the indie circus, and finally they're breaking through. You know, giving the spotlight to someone like Brody Lee. Like you saw what he was in the big leagues. He was never amounted to much. He was always a mid carder or just a tag along to some bigger star. He was just he wasn't the centerpiece, and now look at him as the centerpiece. That dude is a beast. He's doing things I never saw him do in the ring beforehand. You know, he's got a big faction around him and everything. It's absolutely fantastic. I think what I'm going to start with is the tag team of FTR. These guys. I missed out on their stint in the big leagues when they were known as the Revival, but I tell you what, these guys can go, and their motto, fist not flips, that's the way to do it. Like, they are some old school brawlers, and they're just so big and boxy. Like, these guys are just thick. You look at them and you're like, man, these guys are going to pound on whoever. And I think they versed Jurassic Express a couple of weeks ago, and you look at, like, Jungle Boy, and he's a twig compared to these guys. They're just built. Like obviously Luchasaurus, the big fella, he's bigger than everyone. But you know, like these guys, and they work so well together. Like this is tag team wrestling as it is. You know, like AEW have a plethora of tag team talent. And if you're out there saying that all they do is tag team matches, man, you're wrong. I mean, obviously they do a lot of them, but why wouldn't you when you have the talent and the depth of talent that they have? You know, it starts at the top with the tag team champions, Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, and then it drops down to FTR, the number one contenders, when they fight it all out. Like, that match is going to be insane. I can't wait to see if the Young Bucks get in there and try and mess it up. Obviously, leading up to a bigger split within the Elite. Obviously, you know, there's been tension between them and Hangman. Like, it's a really big thing. I'm looking forward to that paying off, because I think I'm hoping Hangman and Kenny Omega, that they actually go heel and just, you know, start a bit of the we're the best one, like F everyone else. I just want to get in there and hurt people. Like we've been betrayed by our friends, where people scorned. You know, I think they could both pull it off, and you sort of saw that this week in the match last week. Like and again the week before, when Kenny just lost his mind a little bit, you know, and kept on attacking Marco Stunts after the bell. Like that was, to me, that's a sign that he's in the process of turning. You know, obviously Hangman's always been that cowboy, ain't get taken no cowboy, ain't always talking that cowboy, ain't get taken no cowboy, always talking that cowboy shit. So, you know, get around him. He's always in the middle there. He reminds me a lot of Stone Cold, and the way that the fans react and the way that he acts is kind of wonderful. But yeah, then you got the Lucha Brothers. Those guys that just, oh my god, they are. Rey Fenix is my guy. Like, he is just something else. He's like the second incarnation of Rey Mysterio. When I first saw Rey debut episode, he jumped off the top of the cage to help save Eddie Guerrero, rest in peace. Like, I'd never seen that before, and it's this little dude, he just jumped off the top of the cage. It was nuts. And like Rey Fenix just walks those ring ropes like they're 10 feet wide. It blows my mind. Yeah, like a couple of weeks ago, he did a Canadian Destroyer over the ropes into 6 people. Like, how do you even? Just the way that they do things is just fantastic. And not to mention, I don't want to ever forget a couple of other teams too. And that's the thing; they're so deep. I have to keep talking about them. They got Butcher and the Blade. I can't wait for them to actually see some together. That's something else. And I mean, in this episode, they got together with they tagged up with Rey Fenix and Pentagon Jr. But a little bit more on that later. Obviously, you know, there's other tag teams like Trent and Chucky T, the best friends. Those guys, they're working together. And, you know, Trent's another one of those guys who never really got the spotlight in WWE. He could never show what he could actually do. But look at him. He's in one of the best tag teams in the world. And he's one of the best performers, if not the strongest performer in that, you know? Like, he is something else. And then you got Jurassic Express. I think one day I'd really like to see Luchasaurus get in there and do some stuff on his own. I think he might be being held back, and like, he might need to work on a few things. Sometimes he seems he's a bit uncoordinated, but, you know, he's like 7 foot tall, 300 pounds. Like, give the guy a break, you know? He's swinging wheel kicks out there like they're nothing, you know? Obviously, the main thing going on in Dynamite at the moment is Jon Moxley versus MJF, and the build up to that. Can I just say, MJF at 23 years old, he is just incredible. Like, he can go in the ring, that's for sure. I've seen a few of his matches. This kid can go. Obviously, they're not trying to put him in the ring as much because he's trying to be a cowardly sort of heel. But this political character that he's got going on at the moment, I'm better than you, and you know it, is just fantastic. His promos are must-see TV to be that young and to be churning them out and that talent. And like, he's just so good at making you hate him. And to me, as a purist, that's all that he needs to do, make me hate you. And he does that better than anyone I think in all companies at the moment. He is just something else. I hope he wins Gimmick of the Year later because he is absolutely crushing it at the moment. And I hope he gets up over Moxley because Moxley's great, don't get me wrong, but I think he's better as this playing the Stone Cold Steve Austin anti-villain, just coming in, making violence happen wherever he goes, number one contender, always there or thereabouts because he's obviously the big star, but, mentioning that promo, he might only have 18 months left. Like, if he's got 18 months left, it's going to be a bit hard to see him not take the strap off him because he's earned that, and he's earned a lengthy reign, even though it's been over 200 days already. I think at All Out, All Out, it's going to be a hell of a fight. I think it's going to be interesting to see what the posse of MJF has to say about it. I know the lawyer will probably feature somewhere, obviously, because he had a lot of screen time today. But I think Gum Guy might have a funny spot. I don't know. I hope so. He's just the fact MJF even has a Gum Guy, like, that's so hilarious. I love it. Absolutely love it. I mean, Wardlow's going to stamp his impact in that match, but hopefully Mox can come out. But like I said, I think there's good reasons on either side, but I think MJF's going to take him. I think it's going to be a hell of a match. Like, I think it's going to be one of a really, really strong match. So you saw in this episode, Eddie Kingston finally came back after his TNT title shot against Cody, and came out with Butch, and after Butcher, Blade, and the Lucha Brothers, Ray Phoenix, and Pentagon Jr. lost, and I thoroughly enjoyed him as talking to these guys. Obviously, they've ran all the tracks together. They've been through promotion all over the world, and they are all fantastic. And the way that Eddie Kingston spoke was so invigorated. He looked at them in their eyes, and you couldn't tell, was he just talking to them man to man or friend to friend? And it was. I hope it was friend to friend, and I hope he takes these guys far because they are all talented. And like you said, he looked Butcher in the eye and he said, "Bro, why aren't you destroying everyone in your path?" And Butcher has that talent. He is massive. He is absolutely monstrous. I cannot believe the size of that man. He's just a monster, and the way he moves is so good. And then Blade, he looked at Blade in the eyes like, "I've known you 20 years. You should be up there for the strap." And it's right. Like, Blade has been around the ring, every corner of the rope, let me tell you, and he has performed at a high level for years and years. Again, never got appreciated because he was never on TV, and look at him now. He's out there. Then those Lucha Brothers, I want to see them going for the strap against the Young Bucks, or with again an FTR and a triple threat. Like, give me a TLC, give me a tables, give me a ladder, give me an anything match. Just the three of those teams going at it is going to be something special. And I know they're trying to hold off from the Young Bucks and FTR because obviously those guys have a bit of a history all over the world. But that match is going to be something else, even though, yeah. Now, I'd just like to take some time out of this to really pay homage to the dude who is... He seems like the father figure of AEW at the moment, You got Cody the face, you got Kenny Omega as the OP beast, and the Young Bucks as the side boys as the tag team. But for me, the soul of AEW is Chris Jericho. For that guy to be doing it as long as he has, and to be still delivering at such a high level is just a great thing, but B, very lucky for that promotion. He is a fantastic person backstage. Obviously, there's probably no one more knowledgeable out there in terms of international wrestling people, but also just being in the ring and knowing what to do, talking on the mic. Like, there's no one who I would rather learn from, almost. He just takes no shit either backstage. Like, I've heard so many stories backstage of Chris Jericho standing up, A, for a little fella, or B, when something goes wrong, he's the first one to come knocking on the boss's door and be like, "This is fucked, dude. You need to fix it. And he's not afraid to get in people's face about it, which I think really is a good, strong message to send to these young kids. Like, don't accept what you're given. Work. Keep on working for it, you know. And if you feel like something's wrong, stand up for yourself and say it, because people will listen to you. And if you go about it the right way, which obviously Chris Jericho has throughout his career, you can keep on going and you can become a superstar like him. His stuff with Orange Cassidy at the moment is fantastic. I love it. The bloke who won't shut the fuck up with the guy who barely says a word. You know, like their matches have been absolutely insane. Orange Cassidy can go, and let me tell you, he is destined for big things. I mean, I think they're gonna have to tweak his character a little bit because it's gonna be hard. I don't see him getting the strap anytime soon. It's just a bit more character development. He's just so popular. It's gonna be hard to keep it away from him. I hope he shows well for the future because he is a bright, bright star. And that's the thing. They got so many young, talented people throughout this roster. And, yeah. Now, I think they actually also have the best wrestler in the world right now on their roster, which is a huge tick in their side. They have a man by the name of Kenny Omega. I mentioned him earlier. This bloke can just flat out go. Sure, he's a bit video game gimmicky with his actions and stuff like that, but this boy is something else. I've never seen anyone in the ring like him. The combinations, the aerial assault, the beatdowns, the creativity is just on a level in which I don't think I've ever seen before, not since the early days of Shawn Michaels or anything like that, you know? He is just something else. I make sure I catch it every match. I mean, at the moment, he's in a tag team with Hangman Adam Page, and they've been teasing being broken up or breaking up, you know, ever since they started being together. You know, they was just forced together and then ended up winning. And ever since then, you know, there's been hesitation. You remember months back, Hangman almost threw the buckshot lariat at Kenny Omega, then thought twice. And then, you know, you see a little bit of friction between them, and then Young Bucks and Hangman having beef. It's all going to boil over sooner or later. And when it does, I think those two are going to stick together. I think Kenny's slowly turning, you know. You see him getting more aggressive, more vicious with his attacks. Like, he's not focusing so much on the flying and the aerial side of things or the creative side. He's just throwing fists at people. And it's really good to see. I mean, a credit to him for being able to do all kinds, and like, you expect no better from probably the best wrestler in the world. But he is just, I mean, who else gets a 7-star match or whatever it was? Like, that's just mental. And how many 6-star matches has he been? He does them for a day. He does them on the daily. It's just, he's OP. He is absolutely OP. I think they're just, he probably deserves the title more than Mox, but you know, they stuck him with the tag team straps, and he's running with it. And I mean, him and Hangman have been highly successful. I think they're gonna, I don't know who's gonna knock them off. I think FTR's been built up quite a lot. I think the Dark Order could just do a total takeover of the titles, and if they get the tag team straps, then they're one more away. And I mean, Stu Grayson and Evil Uno, they're no slouches either. They don't be slept on, especially Stu Grayson. That boy is just electric. He is something else. I really, really enjoy watching him go. I mean, Dark Order's something. The Dark Order's on something. That's for sure. Like, that's a good faction, and I know lots of people are thinking as well. Like, there's lots of factions within AEW. There's, you know, the Dark Order. There's the Elite with the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and then there's, you know, the Nightmare Family with Cody, Dustin, and QT, and then the ladies Brandy and whatever her name is, I forget. She doesn't. Ali. Yeah, that's like, there's a lot of people like together, and it's almost a bit like there's always a match within the faction, and it's interesting that there's so many face factions. You know, Sal Kal Uncensored is another one. You know, Scorpio Sky, Christopher Daniels, and Frankie Kazarian. They're something. You know, like another trio. You know, like again could be considered a faction. It's they're building, and like I'm all for it. I think it's a great little thing. I think the big leagues, those guys, they strayed away from the factions when they sort of changed their moves. You know, they had partners, yeah, and they got a few little trios here and there, but going away from, like, you know, the Taker's faction, you know, Evolution, things like that. Four Horsemen, these classic ones that people always talk about. Like, bring them back. They work. They are successful, and you can see that running rampant throughout AEW Dynamite. It's absolutely fantastic. And I mean, a huge match was announced on Dynamite. Absolutely huge. Thunder Rosa and Sheeta are all out going head to head for the AEW Women's title. Like, that is going to be insane. Sheeta is one of the best female wrestlers I've ever seen, and I'm so happy that she's got the strap for the women. Like, and that title is so crisp. Again, another throwback thing that they do, just those little metal plates. Ooh, works so well. None of this flashy gold going everywhere, Like, the big gold belt was good, but that's the 90s, baby. Like, it's time for a throwback, It really pays homage to the olden days of wrestling when it was just region after region versing each other and stuff. And shout out to Billy Corgan for getting this match done, Like, it's a really big thing for these two to collaborate, and NWA and AEW, hopefully they can work together and have a good partnership. Obviously, there's some talented guys over at AEW, at NWA, and that's just fantastic. I hope that there's a really good talent exchange between the two, because there's a lot of potential for a lot of good crossover matches. And if this one goes well, like I think it will, then there's no doubt in my mind that these guys and girls are going to keep on having some cross promotional stuff. Just thinking about the roster now, obviously I'm not going to run through every person and their stories and everything like that, but there's a lot happening all the time. And I mean, people like Britt Baker, she's fantastic. She plays that bitch woman so well. I absolutely love it. Big Swole's obviously getting a big push, but there's a tag team women's tournament was fantastic. Ivelisse and Diamante got the straps in that match tonight. I mean, on the 22nd, and that to me is such a paying their dues and getting them. I think it's going to be wonderful to see some challenges. Obviously, the Nightmare Sisters are going to come through. Brandy and Ali are going to give it a crack. But I think it opens the door for a lot more female wrestlers to come in to this company. Obviously, they have 2 titles for them now, which is fantastic. And I think it's going to really open the door. Hopefully, again, with that crossover between the two, they can have many, many other people, as well as independents coming through. You saw a bunch of talent come through in that tag team tournament to try and work their way to the top, through AEW Dark and everything like that. Now, the main event for this episode of Dynamite was for the TNT Championship. The great man Cody Rhodes against Mr. Brody Lee of the Dark Order. Now, you knew Dark Order were going to get involved somehow, but I won't say much more yet. But I just want to take a second to really shine a light on Cody Rhodes. I think last few weeks have been fantastic for him, doing this open challenge versus people like Eddie Kingston, versus people like Scorpio Sky, and really just showing off that he is a fighting champion. I think they're also evolving his character more, with that extended ring entrance, adding the Prince of Pro Wrestling, and just going on, and posing a bit more, having a bigger entourage, I believe they call it, coming through. That really shines it's a good evolution of his character. I think it's sort of showing that he's getting a bit cocky with it, and that it's all a bit going to his head, but he has thrown in some fantastic matches, so why not let it go to your head? But and Brody Lee, again, I mentioned him earlier, he has just ascended so quickly, and as the leader of this faction, as the exalted one, he is really, really working well. But in this match, he absolutely squashed Cody. It was over and done in about 6 minutes, and I don't even think Cody got an offensive move in, which was quite a shock for myself. I was expecting a nice drawn out match, backwards and forwards, obviously the Dark Order getting involved and the Nightmare family getting involved, and maybe setting up, a 5-man or a 4-man tag match at All Out or something like that. I was absolutely blown away about this. Maybe we don't know about something about Cody's condition, how he is backstage and everything like that. Obviously, he's a busy man, being the founder and one of the head presidents of this company, so he's constantly having to work and do things like that. So potentially he might take some time off. Maybe we won't see him next week or something like that, because after the match, the Dark Order went rampant. For some reason, Cody got beaten so badly in 6 minutes that he got stretchered away, did the little thumbs up going, as he was leaving, hurrah, hurrah, he's okay. But yeah, then Dark Order came off and spilled him off of the off of the stretcher for some reason, and I mean it was a bit laughable at time. I mean, in some way, because why has he gone from such a fighting, strong looking champion unless he's injured or he's got to take some time off to do something? It was a bit bizarre. I did read earlier in the week that in some potential spoilers that Eric Rowan was going to come in and actually become a part of the Dark Order, and he apparently interfered in the match for Mr. Brody Lee to win it. However, that is not how the match was televised or shown on Dynamite. So whether or not they had to reshoot that or rework that, that's something else. But, that would have been a great little twist on it, It might have been time for Cody to lose that strap. Obviously, he had that match ages ago where he would never be able to contest for the AEW Heavyweight Championship, which is huge. And I think that's a big mark of respect for him as well, to be the face of the company, but say that you lose a match where, that sort of stuff's on the line. I think that's a big decision to put someone else over in that place and make it so for yourself. I mean, again, I think Brody Lee as the TNT champion is going to be something. Whether or not it's going to be, obviously that open challenge is finished with. Don't think we're going to get many indie boys coming through to first Mr. Brody Lee, but I think it plays out well for him. He's obviously a big monster type of bloke, already a heel. So I think him coming through and just scything through the pack for a while could be really quite good. I mean, it's going to be difficult for someone to get over him. It's going to be really difficult. So the commentary team for AEW, Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and a cycle of either Taz or Excalibur. God knows what Excalibur's doing. I think he might be involved in some legal issues at the moment from what I've read online and everything. But those three guys, or those two guys at least, Schiavone and JR, they are absolutely fantastic. It's so good to hear JR's voice. He's obviously the voice of the big leagues for so long and has soundtrack so many memorable moments, but to have him back calling matches full time with his health issues and everything, that is such a sight to see. And I think it's really wonderful that they've given him this opportunity and that he is still performing as good as what he needs to be. Now, I noticed in the last few weeks Schiavone move into a definite more cheesy face kind of commentator, always taking the good guy's side, pointing out the silver linings and things like that. And it works for him. It really does, because most of the time, the third person they get in, whether it be Taz, whether it be Excalibur, or whether it be, Jericho or someone like that coming in on the commentary, they always have a little bit of it's obviously always going to be a heel, so they have that balance, JR being the play-by-play, then a heel and a face, to talk bad about the bad guy and good about the good guy, I think it's a really good balance that they have going with that. And having those guys just is such a big thing. They're obviously big names in the industry and have a really strong history of talent relations as well, especially in Jim Ross's case. I think it's a wonderful thing. Obviously found Jake Hager, as he's now known, another guy again who hadn't seen the spot. I mean, got a bit of the spotlight, won a world title or two, but obviously just drifted into obscurity, which is just it's a shame when you look at him now. He's playing that monster MMA beast sort of dude and just absolutely crushing it. He's so good in the inner circle. He doesn't say much, he just gets it done, and he's an absolute arrogant arsehole while he's doing exactly what he needs to be in that inner circle. It's working for me. And this week there was a bit... Oh, sorry. I've run out of notes, so now I'm just vamping. Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy, those two are... Man, that spot from Matt getting hit in that chair, that wasn't planned, surely. That was an absolute blown spot. I think he was supposed to take the front of that chair to the face, not get 13 stitches in the side of his head, because let me tell you, the shock in JR and Schiavone's voice seemed pretty goddamn real, and I know those guys are good, but watching that blood come out, that seemed like a legit cut as well, and I think it's really helped the storyline develop and stuff like that. Obviously getting into each other's head, and now Matt wants to delete Sammy Guevara all the time, but also they want blood. So I think hopefully this culminates in a first blood match or something like that, something involving bleeding, because I know Sammy's going to get ripped up sometime soon, because it's only fair now that one's cut, the other one needs to be cut. So whether or not they try to do something to make it look as realistic as possible, like they have with obviously Matt's real incident that he had, that'll be quite interesting. And again, it could become a deeply personal feud, which really could be great for the young Sammy Guevara, who, he is another young talented prospect coming through. Like that kid has to be under 25. Like Jesus Christ. I know he's had a couple of issues recently and stuff like that, but seems like he's got his head. He's had some talking tos, and it seems like he's on the right path now. God, I hope, because I hate to see talent like that buried because of some stupid shit that he did. I mean, deserves it obviously for doing what he did. It was a pretty asshole-ish thing, but yeah, he's very talented. And again, I think that's what I really just want to shine a light on in this, is if you're looking for something to watch or looking for something that you're a lover of professional wrestling and stuff and you're sick of the old product, move over. Let me tell you, this is some stuff. Every week I see something that I never have seen before. And that to me is so refreshing and zest. It gives me zest to want to continue watching. I mean, I'm so excited for All Out. I cannot wait. It's got a stacked card, obviously, with the women's title match, the world championship match. There's going to be a few tag team matches, and then Hangman and Hangman and Kenny are going to have a match. Against who though is really up for grabs. I hope it's FTR. Those guys are going to put on a sick match. Lots of very physical people. I think something is going to happen between Kenny and Hangman eventually, and I hope it's in this match, because you can see FTR, they're just talking to Hangman and getting in his ear like, hey man, come on, are you really looking out for your best interest here, or are you working with this guy? And Hangman's the cowboy, he's the Lone Ranger, cowboy shit, he's all about it. So I think there's no way he's gonna be like the most cheered heel in the world if he does that. So I think either him and Kenny go heel together, or Kenny goes heel full blown and turns on the Young Bucks and just says, fuck the Elite, like, let's roll. And now FTR have added Tully Blanchard. That's obviously a good manager for a team, and maybe they're trying to expand and go into recruit a few more with Hangman. You never really know with this, and that's kind of the exciting thing about it. The thing that did surprise me a bit, or has, about this episode is that it was a big Saturday night time slot, but there weren't people like Lance Archer or Brian Cage with Taz. It was Starks and Darby Allin. But I mean, fair enough, Darby's a huge star, and again, another young up and coming prospect who is just living his dream and being able to perform every day, and he's so high risk and everything like that. It's fantastic to watch. But yeah, using these big guys could have been really beneficial. Archer's obviously being built as just a destructor. He is just mowing people down, even people in the crowd, and I think it's a really good build up for him. I can't believe he lost that TNT title match with Cody. That was a big shock for me. I was hoping he'd get over and just become that absolute beast, like almost when Batista was coming up, or when Batista had his run to the title, he was just mauling anyone in his path. And Archer can go, and he moves so well, and he's crazy. Like, you look at him, that dude looks absolutely insane. He looks like he could really do some vindictive damage to people, really help push a storyline. He's got a good voice box in Jake the Snake Roberts, another legend who they brought back, and I think he's a perfect, twisted sort of mind that goes well with Lance Archer, who's being portrayed as a very twisted mind. And Brian Cage with Taz, those guys are entertaining, those guys are interesting. They're sort of stuck in limbo at the moment. He's got the FCW World Championship, whether it's a real one or not, or whether anyone's ever going to challenge him, or if it's merely symbolic, is quite ambiguous at the moment. I mean, I'm pretty sure it is just for show. I mean, I can't imagine AEW, sort of putting on that as a sort of match. I mean, if they did, that would be really cool, like have a hardcore battle royale where it's just, 20-minute time limit, whoever's going to have that 24/7 rule or something like that, or have it, the title can change all the time throughout the 20 minutes, and whoever's got the strap at the end has it. That'd be a pretty cool match. I think that'd be really interesting. But yeah, Cage is just a specimen of a human, and I think for him, it's he's just something else. And watching him again, another monster running through, like he's just going through and demolishing people without even blinking. I mean, he's gonna be number one contender within a couple of weeks, or just after All Out, I'm sure of it. And I mean, he's probably next in line for the title shot. Whether or not he gets it or not would be quite interesting. God, I'd hate to hear Taz if he won. He dude would never shut up about it, There's not much that I could really say negatively about AEW at this present moment, and I'm racking my brain trying to think of things, and it's really quite difficult for me to say anything but plaudits and positivity because their product is just so fantastic. They are putting together great shows, great matches, giving the spotlight to people who deserve it, giving the spotlight to different types of individuals, letting not just having one typecast wrestler, one muscle bound dude who just does power moves. It's so fantastic to see luchadors, to see big guys, to see mid-sized guys, to see aerial specialists, to see technical specialists. It's the way that they've done this is just so fantastic, and the fact they got a weekly show is such a big thing. I'm going to make sure I tune in every week and make sure that they win this ratings war because fuck the big leagues. They are just stale and boring. I don't ever want to watch their product again. I try and keep up with it, but I just look at what happens and just does my lid in. There's just no sense to it. It's not interesting. The stories are boring. They're always so family related or personal or just, I'm getting back at you. Or it's some 50-year-old bloke who's come out of retirement looking for a paycheck and he gets given the strap, Like, that's no fun. Give it to the people who've earned it. Give it to the people who grind it. Give it to the young kids who are the future of this business. Because I think one day they're going to get overtaken and they're not going to know what fucking hit them. And it's going to be great because I'm going to be right there with them, with the people overtaking them, looking back and flipping them off, saying, thanks for what you did. But this is it now, and it has been for a long while. You guys just need to keep up. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this. I'll be back as quickly as I can to do the next episode. Obviously, that's on Thursday night. These delays in the basketball, I'm not sure what's going to happen with their scheduling moving forward. But as long as I'll be back here on the 20th with a quick review of the 27th of August episode. This is Keen Mandles. And quick shout out to my boy Roscoe for handling all the behind the scenes stuff. I couldn't have done this without him. Thank you all, and I hope you enjoyed this. Cowboys always been that cowboy. Always talking that cowboy. Ain't taking no cowboy shit. Always talking that cowboy shit. So, get around him. He's always in the middle, boy. Ain't taking no cowboys.